All right, how's everybody doing? Um, Allison is running a minute or so behind. She was out feeding the horses. It's pretty cool living in the rural country, so to speak. She gets to be closer to nature, feed the horses. We'll have to find out what's going on with Chaka when she comes on. I think the news for her is good. How's everybody doing? Definitely say hello in the chat. I want to know what everybody's drinking. Again, Allison will be here in a minute. And I just thought I'd say howdy to everyone. Looks like we cut things pretty tight with Viva Fry. He had Mike Cernovich on tonight with Barnes, and I think they just barely ended not that long ago. So I don't know if a lot of people are going to be rolling from over there to here or what's going to be happening. No, thank you. Yes, my new shirt, Make Orwell Fiction Again. I definitely am hoping pretty much now it's sad. I have to hope that we're going to make it fiction again or him fiction again, but you know, I don't know. I mean, if Dr. Seuss is dangerous, it's funny. I was watching Alan Dershowitz about that, and he was talking about how Amazon and Dr. Seuss's relatives have stopped selling 6 of the Dr. Seuss books. However, you can still buy Mein Kampf. So you can buy a literal, well, shall we say, World War II evil figure book, the preeminent of these bad people. And I love censoring myself right now, which fits with my shirt. But you can't buy Dr. Seuss. Go figure. So, oh wow, Laria? How do I say that? Lalaria? You're drinking Two-Hearted Ale. Okay, that's fantastic. What are you drinking, Ziggy? I think Ziggy's the responsible one. And anybody else? What's everybody else drinking? Please jump in. Okay, teetotaling tonight. We got Bill Berry. How are you doing? Booger 414 teetotaling, but you did have a Tortuga bourbon cake. Okay, more than one way to ingest it. Viva Fry. Wow, I'm surprised you guys actually got done. Who gave the thumbs down? This is a funny thing. When I put this video up, I schedule these ahead of time so people can get them. I had 2 thumbs down before this even went up. So I had 3 thumbs ups and 2 thumbs down. So go figure. All right, Viva Fry is drinking tonic and Kraken and rum. Fantastic. And what's everybody else doing? I'm still looking here. Allison, are you on your way? And let's see, who else do we have? Okay, pronounce it however it works. Larea. Okay, Larea. That sounds good. Let's see. You'll drink on the Friday stream, Ziggy. Awesome. Sean's only drinking water. Harold is drinking coffee. Where are you located, Ziggy? You have to be up at 5:30. Yeeks. I hope you're west of here. Augusto, Finger of Rye. Fantastic. And then Millwright Pepper. Howdy from Houston, Texas. What are you drinking, Millwright? Okay, let's see. It's completely made up. Okay. Trying to figure out people's names. So let's talk about the news. This is what we're about. And Mark Nelson says there's interesting news out of Michigan. What is going on out of Michigan, Mark? And I will share my drink, which is Smart Mouth. Again, if we can get a sponsor, I'll be happy to imbibe. That would be a fantastic thing. And Paul Ho is drinking Absolute Vodka. Fantastic. Now, I wanted to, I guess, while I have everybody and I'm waiting for Allison to come in, I'll talk about what's coming up with me. Tomorrow, I do not have a guest. Oh boy. So I may be doing this again, only it'll just be an ask me anything type of show. I did that December 24th. So I'm going to go ahead and do it tomorrow. I may throw out some invites to random people, and if they show up, that'll be awesome. But I'm going to fly solo. I have a couple, at least one extremely big name guest coming up. I'm trying to lock down the date and time. I had a date and time, but it's gotten shifted. So I don't want to say who it is yet until I at least have it on the calendar, but it's a big one. It is a very big guest. I know that you guys are going to be super excited about it. Also, next week, I have Ford Fisher, who, if you guys have been watching Allison, this is right in with the news. Ford Fisher is somebody who's a really young guy, but he walks around with all the video equipment on, and he catches just live coverage in protests and different events. And he's had his videos removed from YouTube. And for some reason, I can kind of relate to him, but he's going to come on here as well. He was just on Allison's show yesterday. So if you can, check it out. Again, Alison Morrow. And he was a fantastic guest. I'm going to have him on next week, trying to figure out exactly what date and time. Might be the following week, depending on how the guest situation shifts out. Ziggy's asking me, do I know about Matt Christensen's show? I know of his show. I've watched it a couple of times way back when, but I did not watch the episode this morning. And why was everybody beating the crap out of Mike Cernovich and Viva's live stream? I don't know. I didn't get a chance to see all of it. I will catch up with that later, but I didn't get a chance to see it. And we have with us camera free.
Oh no, is it not working?
With our nuclear reactor symbol here.
It was doing this the last time I had to do a meeting.
Yeah, what's up?
It's working on my OBS. I don't know why it's not. I don't have Lynn here to troubleshoot for me.
Try just switching it. Go to the built-in if you can. Or reset OBS. Because OBS is the camera driver.
Let's see, is this going to work? No.
Now, one of us has to be good looking, and it's not going to be me. So come on, get this fixed.
Cam Link 4K.
Yeah, you're right, Ziggy.
How about this?
That's
Woo! It worked.
Howdy.
Wow. Wow, I'm huge on my screen right now. I need to make that smaller. Okay.
Yeah, just go in there and change it to 720. That may help a little bit.
No, it was just I had the thing maximized, so it was just me on this big screen.
Perfect.
And I haven't showered yet today. How's everybody doing? So it's been another one of those days, husband's gone, childcare, I had a shoot earlier, grocery store, horse errands. So what am I drinking tonight? I'll tell you. So over the weekend, we went to go look at some property in Idaho.
Oh.
And we're probably not gonna buy it because to be nice, I don't want to be. I'm just gonna just keep it at. It's a little bit more work than we can take on. I'll just leave it at that. Just to be, but you know what? It's gonna be somebody's diamond in the rough. It's just not gonna be ours. We have an Airstream that we need to finish before we take on, building on this site. So
a lot of rough.
Yeah, and then some. And the people who have been living there for the last 7 years, credit to them, because I couldn't do that for 7 years. But you know what? I'll be honest with you. I can see how people can get into a project like that and say, I'm never going to live like this for 7 years. And then they wake up one day and it's been 7 years and they're still going to the bathroom in a porta potty. And I can see how that happens because we have an Airstream that's now 2.5 years into the making, and it's still just sitting there. So anyway, We were in Idaho looking at this property, and I don't know if people know Coeur d'Alene, or Coeur d'Alene. I guess depends
Oh,
on
that's
who you are.
gorgeous area. They have
Yeah.
a triathlon there.
It's
And
really pretty. This was
yeah.
just about 20 minutes south of there, this
Mm.
property. And again, if y'all are looking for a piece of property in Idaho and you wanted to spike in value, they're, I think, selling this for 6-7 acres for $250K, with no power, no septic, but you have a well. You should buy this because it will, I believe that property will double in price in the next couple of years. People are moving out of the cities. You know, this is a hot spot. It's
Sure.
not far from the lake. So DM me if you want to know where it is, but it's not going to be our project. But anyway, so we went to check out a brewery in Coeur d'Alene, and we celebrated our dog still being alive. So it was a dog-friendly brewery. So we brought her, and they had a blood orange IPA that they brew themselves. And it is really, really good. It's some kind of orange puree. It says generous amounts of Citra, Simcoe, if that's how you say it, and Cascade hops blended with the pulpy bitterness from blood orange puree. And it's Daft Badger Brewing in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And it is really good.
Nice.
So I suggest if you're ever in the area, definitely check this out. Cheers. What are you drinking, Eric?
Back to my smart mouth. Still waiting on a sponsor. Come on, guys.
Maybe these people will.
Yeah.
This is like, you feel like you're drinking orange juice, so you feel healthy, but you also feel like you're drinking beer, so you feel like you're at a party. So it's like the mimosa of beers, kind of.
Yeah, well, at least it's not like a Long Island tea. Would you like a tea? Then you're laying on the table.
I would say if I drank a Long Island iced tea during this, I would say things that would definitely get me canceled, I'm sure. I'm really lightweight.
I'm sure. All right, so real quick, pup date.
Yeah, pup date, but real fast, you were just talking about Cernovich. So I was watching Cernovich on Viva and Barnes. The one part I caught, didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was talking about how intentional living is going to be the next big thing. And I was just like, it's kind of sad to me, not to be judgy, but it's sad to me that it's going to be trendy to be intentional about how you live, you know?
What does that mean?
Wish that we could just be intentional without it being trendy. Like we could wake up every day and say, I would like to have some kind of idea and purpose for my life instead of just bumbling through it like you're walking in a fog, you know, without it having to be something that you can post on Instagram. I would like to preserve the purity of just waking up with some kind of intention and not just being totally unaware of your life without it being something that now everybody's, you know, jumping on board with. Because I feel like that ruins the intentionality if the intention becomes it's cool instead of it becomes, you know, it's the idea of having a compass and a purpose for your life. I don't know. What do you think about that? Am I being too hard on them?
No, I mean, it sounds like hipsters who have ruined low tech.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's kind of, it's just, I just don't, because then I'm going to be in that.
Anybody who's doing it to be ironic is horrible and should just rot.
I hate being so trendy, Eric. I can't help it. I just hate that I'm so trendy.
Well, there you go. Well, good news. Things cycle in and out. So eventually you're going to be gauche.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I probably already am. I'm the trendiest of the untrendy. So pup date. So she's still kicking it. Basically, you know, it keeps, for the most part, keeps getting better every day. I do notice every once in a while, you know, it's like she stops and stares into oblivion, and I kind of wonder if she's seeing the other side. You know what I mean? That's what I ask her. Like, are you seeing the other side, Jocko? What does it look like over there? But she's going on walks. She got to the piss pole. Remember last time we talked about the piss pole and how I wish I could just have one more walk with her to contemplate the piss pole. And we made it to the piss pole the other day. So that was exciting. And she's still eating really well. I think next week we're probably going to venture back to get some blood work done to see if we can take her off the prednisone and, you know, or slowly start doing that. And then the next question really will be, are we going to try again for a diagnosis? Because as people who have been following the saga may remember, the diagnostic process was part of what almost killed her.
Well, how's Elaine doing now? Is the swelling down on that leg?
The leg is exactly the way it was before we took her to the veterinarian 2 weeks ago and spent $2,000 running tests that told us nothing, but nearly killed her with, I believe, the anti-inflammatory she was prescribed. So we're very hesitant to go back because we keep asking ourselves what we're going to do. It's possible that depending on if she has cancer, depending on the kind, that there's options like vaccines, those, it's not really a vaccine, but I guess sort of, that's what they call them. They take parts of the tumor or parts of your own proteins in your, your own cells, basically grow them in a lab and then inject them back so your body can fight off the cancer. Those are options. We're definitely not going to amputate her leg. We're not going to do chemo or radiation. She's 12 years old. She's just not, especially after this last episode, you can tell she's a lot weaker. It's like it aged her 5 years, which in dog years is 35 years. So it's a lot. So we're just trying to take it easy on her for now and just enjoy her. And I will say that at least for now, I'm still riding the we cheated death wave. So I have slowed down consistently with her, just enjoying, each minute. And I'm not really, somebody asked me, did you talk to the vet about how long she may have? And I said, no, I don't really want to ask that question because after this last week, I don't really believe that anyone can tell you how long anyone's going to live, whether it's you or your dog. Sure. She should have died last Tuesday. She's still here and she's still doing better. So I think the purpose is just to try to live in the moment and enjoy it while we can. And we've gotten almost 10 more walks where we didn't even think we were going to get one more. And, got to take our daughter's 10-month photo with her. We always take her in the photo. And so we thought this was going to be the time that we weren't going to get her. And so we're just grateful that, everybody.
You don't want an artificial deadline anyway. So it's more like
because what are you going to do?
And then that's it.
Yeah, because here's the deal. All right, so say she could have 6 years, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I don't have to, then I don't have to live intentionally anymore, right? To go back to, I don't have to live intentionally anymore. I've got 6 years. Or they tell you she's going to die next week, and you spend all week worrying and sobbing and all these things, and then she lives another week. And you're like, why did I spend that last week worrying and sobbing? And so this is all kind of reverted the way that I don't know if that's the right word, but it's really kind of upended the way that I think about time. Because, Eric, when you do all this stuff like on YouTube and you have other work that you do, time goes by really fast. And you could also always find things to captivate your time and be distracted constantly if you want to. We're definitely in a world now where if we could be on our cell phone staring at it and 10 minutes, 15 minutes can go by and you don't even notice it. Sure. And so I want to slow that down. And I think just not knowing one way or the other, she's got 6 years or she's got 2 weeks or whatever it is, it forces you to just say, well, you know what I do have? I know I have right now. I know I have this minute. So let's just do what we can, the best we can with it.
Okay, somebody wrote in here CBD and Dinovite, which just makes me think dynamite.
Yeah, she is on CBD. I squirt it right into her mouth. She's on some seriously high quality CBD. We got it from a group called Canapet I believe they're in Boulder, Colorado, and had a nice long conversation with one of their reps, and it came recommended by our naturopathic vet. And you open it and it smells like you're giving your dog a joint. I'm telling you.
So get the THC then. Why stop halfway?
Yeah, I know. Why not? Yeah,
she'd
exactly.
Be like, this, what? Oh.
She acts like that already. Maybe it's the CBD. Maybe she's not staring off to the other side. Maybe she's like hearing reggae or something in her head. I just,
I love that idea. I think that's fantastic. So
yeah.
Let's see. We'll try to actually get some news stories today. You shared a little video with me. I don't have it up right now, but what happened with that? It was not that long ago.
With the ESPN anchor?
Yeah. I don't know if I can find
Yeah, I'm going to ESPN. If you guys at home, you Google, look, it just came up ESPN anchor and the next word is crushed. that's the search.
And which is the reward of it. Fire me the link real quick.
Yeah, here. Okay, I'll send it to you. This is from the New York Post. And basically what happened was there's this anchor for ESPN in Colombia crushed by falling wall in scary accident.
Mm.
And journalist Carlos Orduz, if I'm saying it right, during the soccer show ESPN FC Radio, and the wall just
Wow.
collapses on top of him. I guess he was okay. It's crazy to believe that he was okay because the whole wall
Yeah,
just.
I mean, he looked kind of like, huh? Well, I mean,
Yeah, it is
probably
kind
was.
of.
You know what? He probably was okay. Have you noticed that people? I hate to say it, but a lot of drunk drivers and whatnot don't get injured, whereas other people wind up getting killed in these accidents.
Are you saying he was drunk?
No, I'm not saying he was drunk,
Okay.
even though their coverage may imply that. No, I'm saying that he was loose.
Oh,
Well,
he's a soccer. He's doing soccer analysis. You know how soccer people are. Soccer people, yeah.
Soccer hooligan. Oh, look at that.
They fall over.
Man.
Soccer players are used to falling over and pretending they're hurt, when they're not. So
well, that's basketball too, flopping.
Oh, really?
Right? Well, yeah, because you're trying to draw a foul, so you're like, you can throw yourself back. Oh, he fouled me and he fell over. So that
I didn't know that was a part of. I did not know that was a part of basketball. I only thought that was a soccer thing because they're such tiny people. oh God. Oh my! And that guy's like, holy crap! Yeah.
It's like, did we pay up on his insurance benefits?
Yeah, that guy could totally sue. I bet he could if he wanted to. But do you sue your boss?
And he's right
Probably
there.
Not.
He's there. He's
wearing his mask.
Yes, of course. Hey, look, he's well
for the
enough
photo.
Virtue signal. I mean,
Somebody,
we can't have that.
Oh, it's JP Sears had a really funny video the other day about how Joe Biden is wearing two masks of different colors. So you can definitely tell he's wearing
there's two. Yes.
Yeah, he's never wearing two black masks or two white masks. So he's like white under black or whatever. So you're like, oh yeah, I'm wearing two, so make sure everybody knows. It's pretty funny.
Well, it's funny. He can worry about his masks, but he can't stick around to ask questions or answer questions. So
it's been an interesting beginning of a presidency with the press, right?
Hey, what? You know what though? Everybody's acting surprised about it, but so, I mean,
which part that he's not answering questions or people aren't asking him?
Well, when did he start? I mean, did he not run a campaign from his basement?
Right. No, that's
exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Answered anything. So
no.
What expectation did you have?
Right.
That he was going to get any better? He got elected. He's done. He doesn't have to answer anything.
Yeah, I guess you're right that it's not necessarily a change in behavior. It's basically consistent with how it's been. So, I don't know. I don't know.
Great deal if you can get it. I mean, you don't have to actually even show up. You just do what you want.
Well, I have talked about this on my channel quite a bit about White House press conferences anyway, and I think though they're part of the job, and I would never say it's not journalism. I don't think press conferences in general are the highest purpose of a journalist. They're theater, and so answer the question. Don't answer the question. You say that again?
Especially if you're a Costa, then you're a performer too.
Hey, he's laughing all the way to the bank, So it's like one of those things where people got so upset back when his press pass was suspended, and the fact that was the
muzzling of the press.
Yeah, it's just again, not saying it's not part of the job or anything. Not saying it's not journalism. It's just. Press conferences are a place where officials will just tell you whatever they want to tell you. You can ask them the best question. They still are going to just tell you whatever they want. It's not a place where you're going to necessarily find out something that, say, you're investigating with sources or you're filing FOIAs or whatever. It's theater.
I would argue, though, that it is of value if the press actually used it in a legitimate manner. Like, yes, they're going to tell us whatever they want to tell us, right? But you should be there saying, okay, we're going to get all of your statements on record right now. So you're going to have to put all this out. We got it. Now, a proper journalist in my mind would then go investigate and say,
right.
In the press conference, you said this.
Yeah.
But I'm finding this.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. It's are they doing that second step? Are they just sticking around and that's the end of it? It's just they asked their question for Twitter and they got the answer and they move on. And you're right. If there was follow up to check and see if what they were saying is is truthful,
Yeah,
then
hold
you're
them
right. There would
accountable.
be value. Then
It would literally be an accountability type of thing. Like,
yeah,
what was your State of the Union? What was your press conference? You said A, B, C, D, and what's going on here?
right.
And there was a point, I think, that actually did happen to a degree. And let me see, we got somebody asking the question here, Sean McDonald. Biden, dementia, mental decline of Reagan. I will say right now that I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose. Biden acts in a manner that does not seem right to me, and I do feel like there are troubles there. I would not trust him to find my car in the parking lot, but I'm not going to say. And I did live during the Reagan times, and I don't know. It's hard for me to remember well enough exactly how it was toward the end. I think it was mostly just appearances and things, but I don't know that he was really doing anything that would show anything. You're too young.
I mean, he's an older guy. I don't know if I see anything that's necessarily inconsistent with his age in a lot of ways. I know when like how old is he again?
80 now, right? 81.
Well, okay, maybe. I don't know. I guess that is maybe a little young. I just know that
It's not young.
81.
Well, we keep shifting that
My
because
grandma
you and I are
was
getting older, so we're like, let's move the goalposts here a little bit.
My grandma Ruth Morrow was sharp as a tack until about 94. At about 94, that's when we started noticing, okay, and then she died at 97. But she wasn't,
I'm sorry, he's
unable to remember things.
78.
Okay, that's not that old in today's. Sorry, I'm just not. I just feel like
it depends on your living. I mean, I don't know.
yeah.
Did he live the Washington lifestyle?
Believe it or not, Joe Biden, President Biden, and Ruth Morrow were actually not. They didn't live too far from each other in Greenville, Delaware. And
there's a name drop.
Yeah, actually, remember last time I told you all that my cousin, my mom's cousin, was the voice of Judy Jetson and Betty Rubble, and that's my grandma Ruth Morrow's niece. Ruth once saw Biden when he was a senator in Joseph A. Banks, which is a very Greenville, Wilmington, Delaware store. And he asked her how she liked the suit that he was trying on. And she said it was very unbecoming for a senator and snubbed him and walked away. So, she was not a huge fan. She probably would not be happy that he's president. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I mean, he ran enough times to pull it off. Let's see. Okay, somebody just stated he's the same age as Bernie and Mitch. Now, I've got to say, though, Bernie is spry and Trump is very spry.
What?
That's one thing, that's I think the big difference is Trump has so much energy and Bernie has obvious energy. I mean, the dude's like running around train stations and whatnot.
Can you please explain to me what happened with Bernie's mittens?
The memeable mittens?
Yeah, what happened with Bernie's mittens?
It's just memeable. He's just a little old man sitting in the folding chair.
Didn't they call him? Wasn't there something about like he's a racist or something because of his mittens?
Oh, I'm sure people
some kind of privilege. Bernie mittens.
Okay, well, that's some incredible privilege. He's sitting on a metal folding chair with
high school teacher is ridiculed for claiming Bernie Sanders' mittens showed white and male privilege because women would never have gotten away with dressing down for the inauguration.
Oh, there you go.
If anyone would dress down for an inauguration, it would be me right here.
Well, okay, but I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, well, but you can dress down other times. That's cool. I mean, wasn't everybody going crazy saying, look at Kamala with her Chuck Taylors. Oh, she's so hip. That's kind of dressed down. So I don't get it. I mean, help me out here. Do we have a double standard here? I mean, give me a break.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, he was wearing a suit and a scarf and he had freaking mittens on. Get over it.
Yeah. I feel like if that's what we're worried about, then we're doing pretty good. I don't know. I don't really understand why people get into that kind of stuff. It seems never been something I've really paid much attention to. I think partially because, well, it depends on how you grow up, but if you get to me, it's always been like, if you get the job done, I really don't care what you look like. And I think that translated into my career too. Thankfully, I was an environmental reporter. So it was sort of apropos to wear overalls and boots and whatnot. And so I got away with, I never had the talent coach come to my desk and force me to go shopping. And I don't know if people know this, but the higher up you get in markets, you often have talent coaches that are hired by the stations, and you have to go shopping with them, and you have to buy with your own money what they tell you to buy. And
Nice.
I will never forget the fact that I was never asked to go shopping. I think either because I was just way past any help that anyone could offer me, or because they were just like, she just hangs out in the woods. So
She's a hippie. She's a hippie.
yeah.
Same
Well,
as a hippie.
I argued to him, what kind of credibility would I have if I was standing out in the middle of the Cascades wearing a suit? That wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. So
True. Somebody posted they want to be QAnon for Halloween, and that brought up something. I'm
Blue Anon. Have you seen Blue Anon?
That's exactly what I was going to bring up, because I was like, I just have heard of this, and it's a cutesy term, but I'm wondering, is this going to actually catch on, or is it kind of annoying? Like, do you remember how you had the alt-right and you had Hannity, everybody saying alt-left, alt-left, alt-left? It's like, no, just saying the other thing and then throwing the alt on it doesn't make it go. Then somebody clever came up with CTRL left, which I kind of liked, control left, because there's symbolism there. Obviously, it's on the keyboard as well, but it also means that you're trying to control speech, control things like that. I'm like, well, that's pretty clever. But that seems to have gone by the wayside. So, Blue Anon, do you see that sticking around?
Maybe. The reason I say maybe and not yes is because I don't think that conservatives are that good at the culture war, and they would be the ones that would use it. And I don't see them doing that well at getting these things to stick. But maybe they'll prove me wrong. I'm not sure.
Right.
What about you?
While we're here.
Hey, is this the booze show? So should I have alcohol?
Yes. What are you drinking?
Good. I just got some alcohol.
Is that Bert or Ernie? Oh, it's Robert.
No, they're canceled.
That's right. I
The
forgot.
front on the camera. I can't see it.
Wow, guys, Robert, you've been live all night. Let's get this guy a contract.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Actually, I've been on interviews since 10 a.m.
Are you
Vegas
kidding
time.
me?
So it's been boom, 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 boom. And then GQ just did and it ended up not being a hit piece. It's a guy who wants to make himself as sort of a long-form journalist, who wants to be a writer. He actually did a good piece on assassins. He helped do that documentary on the North Korean assassination, or the assassination of that the half brother. That was good.
Was it the uncle, or the how did he die? Because the uncle got shot with the anti-aircraft gun.
Not the uncle. This is the one who got assassinated in Malaysia by the two girls who had no idea what they were doing. I don't know if you've seen the documentary Assassins. It's fascinating.
I haven't.
So this guy wrote the book for it. So he's in that
first movie reference.
He wants to be a journalist turned novelist at some level, but real life stories. So he was kind of doing a deep dive into the Rittenhouse case, but I didn't trust his political instincts at all. And he got for a while, I don't know whether I've only halfway through the piece. He thought the OK sign was a secret white power sign.
Oh, God.
So when I hear a journalist tell me that, I'm like, you're not a serious journalist.
Disqualified.
They're all millennial kids. God bless them. But, the level, my niece is about to go into it. So I'll use Alison as the example for her to try to live up to. But not your everyday journalist. The only journalists I get who are good anymore, for the most part, are old school journalists, over 50, local newspaper. They still believe, even if they're lefty, Austin newspaper writer, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, they'll give me a fair hearing, because one, they just like an interesting story, and two, they still value the idea that they're objective, even if they know their own biases. They don't want to come across as some patronizing millennial YouTube Instagrammer that is a disguised journalist, like our White House press corps. Kids who have there's a reason why Obama's people could make fun of the White House press corps, the National Security press corps, is because they're kids. They're kids who have no clue. We were just interviewing Mike Cernovich tonight, and I never forget when he went to the White House press corps, that when he was invited and he lectured all of them about Antifa violence. Alison did a great video on that. I think I got demonetized within 5 seconds, but I don't know why. Though, still, by the way, if you go up to it, it clicks and you have to say, I have permission to see something. I'm like, what did Allison do that I got to get permission to see it? And then it's nothing except your everyday black bloc techniques and tactics that YouTube right now, and like online, sometimes you can't even see your Antifa video because it'll say, do you wish to proceed? There's dangerous content. So I say,
new.
yes.
No, you have to do it twice too, by the way. Like World War II videos. So somebody recommended a World War II video, and I had to click once saying it's adult only material, and then a second time saying it's extremely offensive, scary. I'm like, well, geez, you've talked most of these people out of it.
Well, my favorite quote so far from that GQ piece on the Rittenhouse case, which again, to his credit, not as unfair as 90% of the media coverage out there, but it's still a piece that's just, this one statement was just shocking to me. It was about the first guy who ended up being shot by Rittenhouse, who was attacking Rittenhouse, who, by the way, it turns out, this was interesting, the GQ piece, had been suicidal all the way up. And so he had been for days before. But it talks about how he had a tragic past, drugs, alcohol, crime. And then at the end of the sentence, it tells you he was in prison for 14 years for sexual abuse of minor children. And it's like, is that a tragic history or is that a bad history?
Wait a minute, is this the father who was flipping everybody off?
He's the father of that person. No, it was the
guy who got shot that night. That was his kid. That was his kid that he was so upset. Okay, well,
I mean, the history.
Gee, I wonder how far that.
There's little chance somebody has those issues that don't have, there aren't parental issues in the background. And in my experience, doing a lot of domestic violence work, representing victims of child abuse, victims of violence. But it was an extraordinary statement. I was like, I don't know if a reporter could have made that statement in the past to say it's kind of tragic that he abuses children and rapes children. It's kind of tragic. Tragic? Is that the right word?
For the children? Jesus.
Yeah. But for that guy, but maybe I'm a little Tennessee.
All right. Somebody's saying this, and Courtney Grace is regular. I don't know if Barnes has read John Ronson, So You've Been Publicly Shamed. I have. I know Viva has. We talk about it quite a lot. It's a fantastic book. Should be required reading.
Well, my Amy Cooper story is right out of John Ronson's book. I mean, you go from being a little nerdy, accountant type in the investment community. Anybody knows her, maybe a little bit on the spectrum, kind of, not, from small town in Canada. And all of a sudden you're blown up as the racist, most evil person ever, because you don't like being jumped in the park by somebody who behaved illegally. Her story is a John Ronson right out of that book. And we're going to have 100 of those John Ronson type stories because it's only going to it's getting worse, not better.
No, it's getting higher. Like Pierce Brosnan's been, Pierce.
Yeah, when that loser, and even Piers Morgan, has this little tiny minute of free speech, and now he's canned because he points out the obvious that Meghan Markle is an absolute liar and clear sociopath. She's like, she should get the Amber Heard Award. That's who she should be. But not to say anything controversial.
Yeah. Eric, is my husband one of your managers for your channel?
How do you mean?
He has a blue name with a wrench next to it. What is?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I mean, I'm a mod. You're a mod, I think.
No, I'm not a mod. I'm just like everybody else. When did he become your producer? Is he cheating on me? What's happening here? He's my only tech support, and somehow he is working your channel.
All right.
Wow.
We can fix that. I promise. We can fix that.
Yeah, you tried to slip that past a journalist. Thanks a lot.
Well, what am I gonna do? I got to get attention one way or another. So we need to, while we have Barnes here, I know you're very interested in the face mask story, and I don't know what Barnes can share, but
you mean the lawsuit?
Anything you can share about the suit that you have going, because Alison's done a lot of good work. Yeah, on COVID and doing daring.
Good interview with Mary the other day. Real sweetheart lady. She's a sweetheart. Bobby Kennedy Jr. is frankly a sweetheart. I was encouraging more lawsuits. They were reasonably disciplined at what suits they're bringing, but I was pursuing a lot more people. I was like, sue them, because the New York Times libeled them. A lot of these people libeled them. I mean, all he's trying to do is make sure people have informed consent. I thought that's what the Nuremberg Code was about, 1947. We seem to have forgot it quickly. to let the white lab coats run our world, such that they're scared of the questions Bobby Kennedy Jr. is asking. I mean, incredible.
Oh my Lord, it's over now.
Aha! And he's got the teaser ready to rock. Hey, do you have some alcohol?
Do you know how bad this is going to be? If my wife comes down to the basement and sees what I'm doing
Oh
now.
no! Wow.
All right, Allison, you have the wrench. Okay, you've got the wrench,
I'm gonna type something just to see.
and you can
I'm
sit a
gonna type,
link.
do I have the wrench?
I'm going to say I might only have 10 to 15 minutes.
Yes, I do.
I've never had a wrench in my life except the time I broke the dishwasher. But okay, if I get in trouble, you might see me get hauled off by the collar. Robert, I was just watching. I said you've got to get me in here where we were talking about the Amy Cooper social media shaming is getting worse, and
John Ronson,
John Ronson and Pierce Morgan.
Yes, which is nuts.
It's nuts in that it's a crazy thing because Meghan Markle, she comes, for what she said. I have not seen the interview. I'm not going to watch it. I don't want to partake in this, but I can appreciate that even the wealthiest people on earth have mental issues. There's no question about it. The question is, when do you go from having the personal mental issues that are serious to the victimhood, cancel culture type mentality? And that she filed a complaint against Pierce Morgan is over the top because all of them are exercising free speech, and one wants to sanction the other for doing it.
No, definitely. And by the way, you have the wrench, Viva. I'm doing the Oprah with the wrench.
I don't know what the wrench means, so don't give it.
I'm monitoring you on the channel. You're a moderator. It's like he's got a wrench. He's got a wrench. She's got a wrench. Barnes has a wrench. So there we go. Everybody in the group has the ability to post links in the chat.
Well, that's beautiful. But Robert, were you following the chat in our stream with Cernovich?
I never do follow the chat. So I could say that on here. But I don't. It's like too much. I'll do a live chat afterwards on our locals page. VivaBarnesLaw.locals.com. Allison also has a locals page. Eric also has a locals page. So you can look them up, ask them questions. Eric has some great information on there. Allison has great info. Locals is great in general. Exit rant for big tech monopolists. But I don't the YouTube chat. I'll only check in and out even of the comments because it can be participatory and democratizing, but it's become like Twitter. It's become like Facebook. A lot of swamp of haters who just come in and for the most part, I don't mostly care about trolls, but the quality of the trolling has gone down. There's no Michael Malice level trolling here. There's nothing, it's not.
True.
It's like, who cares? I don't care about this person. I don't care about that person. So
Gavin McInnes is another good troller.
Oh, Gavin's a master. I mean, that was old school trolling. 2013, 2014 kind of trolling.
Yeah, he created the hipster.
They're just
and then
mean.
It ran away.
They're nasty. They just want to attack. They just want to create a storm. They're like that person in the bar you just want to get away from who drank too much, who's just a mean personality by nature. So we're interviewing people who have a bunch of people who all they do is troll them. So Mike Cernovich has that. Dave Rubin has that. Jack Posobiec is next week. And they've done a good job of
at least one.
Huh?
Oh yeah, we have one shared, and if he's watching, he knows exactly who he is.
Yes.
Between having one shared is beautiful. This is the funny thing: is like having one is a drama, having 10,000 is a statistic. Rubin and Cernovich, I don't know what they've done. Well, Cernovich, let me rephrase. I know what Cernovich has done. He's done enough to piss off a lot of people. Rubin, I genuinely don't really know what he's done, but
I do.
So other than turning,
he's an apostate. That's there is no worse crime than being an apostate. I mean, he went from the Young Turks to Blaze TV.
He's the original heretic. So, I mean, at some point, though I don't know if Allison has got as much of the hate, but when you go from you're supposed to be inside the church, inside the cathedral, if you will, in the old terminology, people like Mike Malice and others will use to describe the institutional narrative. And when a former priest says, there's a problem in the church, That's who they have to burn at the stake. That's who has to be permanently smeared, permanently shamed in our modern age.
Don't you think that's kind of why people are going after Glenn Greenwald too? Because he's, you're seeing these pissing matches among journalists because he's calling them out.
Also, he's a real journalist. I mean, this is a guy that broke the Ed Snowden story. I mean, this is a guy who has real bona fides.
That's why they can't just discredit him as somebody who's, just an indie guy with an axe to grind, because he's like, that's the same thing with me. I won your door prizes and I quit. And so you're going to have to find a different way to argue. You can't just say that you're a grifter or that you just came in for, to use it as an opportunity to make a name for yourself. Like you did the work that everybody else did. You saw the inside. You were one of them. They gave you the awards. They looked to you as one of them. And then you're saying this. Now they have to figure out a new way to attack it, because they can't just attack you on the merits because you are one of them. They can't just say you're just not us, because we are one of them.
Allison, have you been accused of working for Mossad yet?
Not yet, but I'm waiting for that. I have been accused of other things, but I haven't made it to that level yet. I'm waiting. I have plenty of alcohol in the fridge ready for that day.
Let me
wait
say,
till you're Alex Jones and people are telling you you're not Alex Jones, you're Bo Bridges. They killed Alex Jones 5 years ago, and now you work for Mossad and everyone else. Can you imagine being Alex Jones and being accused of being a deep state shill? I mean, it's like, okay, maybe you folks have gone a little far.
I've never made the Alex Jones Bo Bridges connection, but now that you mention it, Robert.
Yeah.
I don't have a glass, so I'm just going to drink it Tennessee style.
All right. Cheers.
I've got a mug that's filled with it's a pen. I've got pens and Sharpies.
Man, it's good.
I'll get some.
So he drinks knowledge.
What is in that bottle?
So it's a single farm estate, Lowland single malt Scotch whiskey, Daft Mill. A limited edition of 1,680 bottles, summer batch release from 2006. It was distilled in 2006, matured for 12 years in oak barrels, and it's a very smooth single malt for Scotch. Because for me, a lot of Scotch is too harsh. It's got to get to a certain level. So like Macallan 25, that's pretty good. Macallan 50, that's a real deal.
Show the
see what the chat's saying about this.
Turn the bottle to the internet, and within 5 seconds, we're going to know how much it cost.
This one actually wasn't that pricey, I don't think. I like some of the Irish single pot stills. Some of those you can still get at a real fair value. I was trying to look up Pappy's because I like Pappy's 23. It's like 15 grand. I was like, man, I used to get that for $500. I should have stocked up on that.
Oh, but, I love it when he's like, "Oh, that was only $500."
Let me
is like $5
He's like, that's a half hour work. I understand. It's like a half hour work. For
my anecdote is, I used to drink Chevek, and anybody who knows what that is, it's spelt teabag, TEABEHBHEAG. It used to be $35 a bottle. Now it's $70. And I don't get it.
Yo, Viva's brother-in-law makes a really good gin.
It's amazing. La Chaufferie, for anyone who speaks French.
Well, there you go. If you're a gin drinker, you'd be set, David.
Well, I just finished the bottle of Kraken. I bought a bottle of Kraken rum because back when the lawsuits were raging, I was going to make a joke about Kraken rum and the Kraken, and I said it might be tasteless. I don't want anyone thinking I'm making fun of anything. So I kept it in the cupboard. I finished it.
Self-censoring.
I am the first to admit I self-censor a lot of the time, because the other day when I tweeted to Justin Trudeau and I referred to him as the blackface wearing, a reporter groping, thrice ethics violating. This is our Prime Minister of Canada. Even then I censored, because if I had no fear of God, I would have said what I thought.
No,
that's why you can't bust on Joe Rogan, because you know that you're self-censoring.
Oh yeah, actually,
in his position, and that, by the way, that's news. And this is news with booze, so occasionally I'll put some news in here. But I mean, I joke that David or Viva Fry is the Joe Rogan of the legal channels, or our kind of group, because he's the son, and we sort of rotate around him. Speaking of myself, on civil law, Nate the lawyer.
When I was in DC, people came up to me. Before this was January 6th, January 5th, and they were coming up and they were saying, "Oh, I recognize you. You're on that show with Viva Fry." And they're like, I'll hold on a second. I'm gonna remember your name. I'm gonna remember." And then they never did remember. And I was feeling pretty good because, like, hey, if these guys do anything crazy tomorrow, they know Viva Fry.
It wasn't even Alex Jones they knew you for. They knew it for Viva.
I will choose to believe the story that Robert is saying because I love it. Now, that being said, nobody's going to call me Joe Rogan. They call him Toe Rogan because his head looks like a toe, and I discovered this today. And
he's tiny.
Well, no. First of all, the guy's ripped. He's done his work.
He's
he makes
ripped.
Funny faces. I may be thinking Joe Rogan 3 years ago when he was doing the UFC.
No, he's still ripped, but
No,
I just think that's funny. That's what you led with,
Well, Owen Benjamin's who coined the name. Owen Benjamin had a falling out with him.
Yeah.
And pretty much everybody else out there who seems sane still.
What happened to that guy? Did he just disappear from YouTube?
Owen Benjamin is
of course.
in Big
I mean,
Bear.
Owen thinks Alex Jones is CIA. So, Owen went way off the res.
Yeah.
I knew Owen. I actually had met him at a Cernovich party in New York back in 2017 where Chelsea Manning was walking around with Cassandra Fairbanks. I remember thinking that.
Oh, Jesus, you were at that party?
Huh?
You were at that
she was
party?
at the party. I mean, it was fast. And people were outside were chanting, "We want Cernovich. We want Cernovich." They beat up and attacked the old guy who walked out that night. This was back before, the Proud Boys were just a bunch of drinkers who liked to brawl before they went off and did their own thing, and too many people got involved. So it was a different time, and it was New York City. I mean, you probably couldn't do that today in New York City. Though he had an event, he had scheduled a venue, and they canceled 2 days before, so he had to find a new venue. He had like Milk and Honey, DJ band, this like group with like these dressed up as a American flag gymnast. And I remember thinking, this is kind of a crazy environment. This is fun. Fascinating. Only Cernovich could put together that back at the time. And then he sort of opted out of a lot of that. But it was a fun setting. But yeah, those people were there, and I met Will Chamberlain for the first time there. So the Cernovich used to be a 6 degree of separation guy. He brought a lot of people together. Jack Posobiec was a marginal, Trump active guy that had some military background. Cernovich promoted him and worked together with him. Now Posobiec has, 1 million plus followers, huge social media influencer, good, has become a good conservative journalist more on the right. Cernovich, who helped introduce him to the world. Cernovich did that.
Vox Day. Sorry, I was trying to remember the name, but Owen is now in the Vox Day type of crowd.
Oh, beyond that, man. Beyond that. He's out in New York hiding out. He's
in Gig Harbor. I believe he lives in Western Washington. He was in
moved
my old
west.
TV market. Yeah. And I did like the fact that the guy's like raising goats and he was doing the homesteading thing. We're all about that. And so it was interesting watching his journey towards that kind of, I don't think he was off grid in any way, but trying to be more self-sustaining. I don't know. I honestly didn't really watch a ton of his stuff, especially not lately. But I remember back then I was like, wow, this guy's in my area. He's a conservative who lives in Seattle. He's really outspoken about certain things. But then, over time I was like, I'm not totally sure about
Reese
this.
Witherspoon to where he is now.
The earth is flat. He thinks you're crazy if you don't think the earth is flat, and he has all these anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. But yeah, he used to be just a funny, engaging guy that was on the political right. I still don't know what dropped him down the rabbit holes he went into, but if you go into it.
Are we talking Owen Benjamin or Carl Benjamin right now?
No, Owen. Carl's sane. Cod is sane.
I say this jokes aside. I used to watch Owen Benjamin when he was, I'm not saying when he was a comedian, like he's no longer a comedian, but when he was an edgy comedian. And I watched the transition. And the funny thing is that the conspiracy, I'm not saying conspiracy in a fraudulent sense, but it feeds itself where Owen Benjamin went so far off the edge that his own behavior was propagating the very reprisals that he was complaining about. And that becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy where the more extreme you go, the more you get sanctioned, the more you get to blame the sanctions on the extreme theory. And
he went that way. Yeah. I mean, he was in there with Jordan Peterson and that whole group. And then he turned on them and and it was like Rogan was texting. I'm saying, dude, I'm your friend, man. Just shut up. Just, can you ease off a little bit on Twitter? Can you back off? And then that's when Toe Rogan. So we're in come full circle. This all started because of Toe Rogan, and that was Owen Benjamin, Owen Benjamin's like 6'7" or something. He's a very tall dude, and Rogan is not a very tall dude. He's pretty tiny. So that's Owen Benjamin, keeping it a very high level of comedy.
Well, first of all, I had no idea. I still think Rogan is probably taller than me, so that makes
Sorry.
me pinky toe. So, but no, Owen Benjamin's. I don't know where he is now, and I have now that we all talk about it, I don't know where
Washington
he's.
State, country, very, very off the grid type of guy. He's a little ahead of Allison, but he's insane.
I heard one time I was just through the grapevine of random YouTubers, because it is very weird. When I was in mainstream news, I didn't know any of these people. I was just watching a Brett Weinstein. Is it Stein or Steen? Weinstein?
I would say Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein and their Weinstein.
Though that does remember that's an electric Kool-Aid test question.
Right.
But what is it? You guys all said different answers. Is it Weinstein?
F-E-E-N? At least that's how they pronunciate it when I've heard it.
Weinstein.
It's Weinstein. Yep. It's Weinstein. No
question.
I thought it was Eric Weinstein. I thought he said Eric was saying Weinstein.
No, dear.
And it's not, you're right, Eric. Pay a bit more attention. I've always heard it.
It's Diane Feinstein. Also, I don't care what they say. I don't care if it's Feinstein. It's Feinstein.
Oh, okay. So you're correct. Okay, got it.
All right. Well, since we're all YouTubers, we'll just call him Brett, because we're all just on a first name basis with him. But anyway, when Brett was at Evergreen, which was in my old TV market, I didn't even really know any of that stuff was going on. It wasn't until I became a YouTuber that I knew what this whole intellectual dark web was. I knew there was this guy named Brett. I knew
even that's falling apart. By the way, sorry.
I know it's falling apart, but I'm just saying, like, the whole Owen thing, like, this is all stuff that the average, even at the people in my old TV market, I'm pretty sure he was in that market. Like, I don't even think anyone would know who he is. They barely know. I know they probably knew about the controversy of Brett, but I don't think they understand the significance of it in the new media world. There's just this real divide. And so, yeah, even though I was like in the same market, it wasn't until later that like, who is this guy? And Toe Rogan and what, you're in mainstream news and this guy's living literally 30 minutes from you. And this controversy with these huge YouTubers, you don't know any of it is going on.
He's going on Rogan and there's 12 million viewers watching it. Whereas your local market, which I know is strong, was not getting 12 million, hits on a news station.
No.
So it's amazing.
It goes back to why they hate the heretics. The heretics cross over and platform people that their former audience had never heard of before. Full disclosure, Brett has been a client in a range of contexts involving the elections and whatnot, his Unity project. So a great guy, brilliant guy. I mean, really goes all the way back. He discovered things at the University of Michigan that are very disturbing about the scientific community, how a whole range of testing works. He did a
lot of racism that he fought back then too, right?
Oh, yes, he did. I mean, he exposed something. He's so sincere and idealistic, which is always it's the people who change the world or the people who have the most naive thoughts in the world because I'll just march forward and do what's right. And then end up in a storm that the rest of the world witnesses. But yeah, he was actually a real whistleblower all the way back. His brother thought he should have been more aggressive about certain actions. And I was shocked by the story. It was very deeply disturbing about what it really told us about our scientific literature community and the fact the story almost got no airing ever. And I was like, wow. So it was the institutionalized corruption of the occupation of journalism, in my view, was part of this. The professional large too, that they're not curious, they don't investigate, they don't expose, they don't and if you do, you become a heretic, you get branded, smeared, shamed, and censored.
Jonathan Haidt, are you guys familiar with Haidt?
Yes.
He's really been super important. And David, more on your reading list. Jonathan Haidt, Happiness Hypothesis, and especially.
I like the alliteration, but I have not read the book yet.
I know. Well, I'm always busting on him. And he needs to suffer a little bit. Viva has to suffer a little bit because he is not giving proper respect to Thomas Sowell. We've gone back and forth, and that is a solid book, dude. I have not yet finished Black Rednecks, White Liberals. First of all, the thing is, I think why I'm not inclined, why I'm not so head steady to finish it is it's not all news to me. So I can see people saying like, "Holy crap, this is revolutionary stuff! I've never heard of this before." I've heard of it, and so it's less revolutionary to me. But that's like Ruben's book. I mean, I watched it going in real time.
Ruben's book is common sense. Cernovich's book is common sense. Listening to it is like listening to your psyche saying, "This is what you should have been doing." What opened my mind was, Chomsky's Manufacturing Consent opened my mind, but then I got it after about 5 hours, And then it's just a question of, taking examples that were current at the time to illustrate the example, and then they're not so relevant now. But hold on. If I'm so
Go.
all that to say, Soul's book is amazing, and it illustrates things that most people do not know about. But once you already know it, it's great. It reaffirms what you already knew in terms of your exposure, and it reaffirms the horizons that you have already exposed. So anybody who does not know about the history of the slave trade should read it, period.
And racism. That was probably one of the most enlightening elements, is that slavery created racism and not the reverse.
So, and I won't call that a revelation. I'll call that a theory. It's his theory. It's a very insightful thing about how the modern era has racialized slavery to promote a narrative. And it's an amazing theory. It'll upset a lot of people, but it should upset them, and they should read it and listen to it and just get upset. Robert, I saw your hands up. I know you want to say something.
Oh, no, I was going to say that's absolutely right. I'm shocked by the people who don't understand that. I was watching Michael Malice and Dave Smith talk about the South post-1865, and they got a lot of basic stuff wrong. And even 1965, because it's the old libertarian argument about civil rights. Shouldn't you have passed that even though you're a libertarian, et cetera? And it's like they got like they're saying, how do you have society cure a culture problem? Like the problem of race in the South was always a power problem. And it was racism was originated and invented and pushed and propagated in order to advance certain interests of certain groups of people, who also disqualified a bunch of poor whites. I mean, like, go back. There's a reason, folks, while 1900 had fewer people vote in Mississippi than 1860. And that isn't because there had been a population disappearance, and it isn't because there were a bunch of slaves voting in 1860. It's because they got rid of all poor people from voting. And the rest. So their racism was real, but it's not like when I was studying the Klan. That was my first revelation as a history student. And my premise was the idea of racism is what caused people to be racist. So if you could, do a version of critical race theory and discourage racism, that's the theory at least. We can argue about whether that's what that means, but that would it actually stop the racial abuse that took place? And I studied it and found no, not at all. The Klansmen are almost all sociopaths. Well, our friends on the behavior panel would say psychopath. Scott Rouse would be like, there is no sociopath.
Well, yeah, Scott's very touchy.
Only psychopaths. Only psychopaths. Okay. So
I'm going to go with both. So
yeah, that's my own instinct, but I can't really challenge his expertise. He's got, way up here compared to me in that space. So psychopaths, they're all psychopaths. And the Klan was just a permission slip for them to act out their sociopathology. Sure. That's why they beat up their wives. That's why they beat up their children. That's why they have criminal histories. That's why they're
Woodrow Wilson. Oops. Oh, sorry.
Woodrow Wilson was a hardcore racist. And it shows you what progressivism looked like back then. Not so pretty. Birth of a Nation, first movie ever filmed in the White House. There's your great Democrat for you. But the whole Princeton too, I always like to remind people of. But I think the whole dynamic, but it was the South is still misunderstood because people want to politically re-script it for their own convenient self-serving narratives.
Oh God, Eric, are you going to read that?
So here,
David took
Robert,
a picture of it.
Here's the deal. I didn't want to read this during our last live stream because I didn't know if Quick Dick McDick was
oh my God,
something that will get you immediately canceled from the interwebs. Viva, I'm going to keep pestering you about talking with Quick Dick McDick. The name is not, but he's very family friendly. I will have a discussion, but I do not believe anyone Quick Dick McDick is family friendly. But I'll have a discussion. No, Robert. Going back to the Thomas Sowell thing, it's an amazing thing. The stats that they cite in the book about when. Well, first of all, the very definition of slavery, and one of the talking points that a lot of us are brought up on is that, Irish people were not slaves because they were, I forget what the word is, but they were compelled. It's not compelled. It's a less lofty word, but they were forced labor as opposed to slave labor. And I forget what the exact word is. Say it again.
Indentured servitude.
Indentured servitude. That's the whole thing. So they say, like, okay, the whole idea that it was not only blacks that were slaves, but rather whites, Irish, Scots, whatever. Oh no, because they were indentured servants. They had a better life than other slaves. And then you realize, if you believe what Sowell says, is that these definitions are ex post facto modernist sort of revisionist history things where they say, yeah, we're going to call certain people slaves and others indentured servants, and we're going to treat them differently historically. And if you're not even aware of the distinction in the first place, you'll find it shocking. You might even find it upsetting. And then you'll listen to it, and then you'll say, like, okay, how do I digest this? And
there's another thing too. I don't think Soul went into it, and I don't know if you guys are aware of it. I don't know if it's Jared Diamond. I forget who it was, but the reason why slaves got brought in from Africa instead of indentured servants, because indentured servants were preferable because they spoke the same language. It was easier to instruct them to get something done than it was to bring in other people. But malaria was a gigantic problem in the South, and people were dying in waves, and the indentured servants were dying like crazy. And that was part of the reason that they shifted that functionality. And I've got to bring this comment up here for Barnes. It's an interesting point. I think you're talking about the leadership of the Klan, Barnes, especially early. Mm-hmm. But Owen Jones is saying, can someone ask Barnes about the success of Daryl Davis, who I want to get on the show, if everyone he was dealing with was a psychopath? And he's the guy who collects Klan robes.
If his point was that there are some informants and infiltrators participating, there's no dispute about that now. The FBI had many people who are FBI agents helping propagate and perpetuate criminal behavior. I mean,
this is Daryl Davis. He's a blues musician, a black blues musician, and he's literally, for whatever reason, kind of made a career out of befriending people in the Klan. And they eventually leave, and they give him his robes when they leave.
Interesting.
Amazing.
I don't know anything about that story. And I'm talking about the Klan of the 1960s. The Klan today is just a bunch of drunk nitwits. So there's just, during the Snipes case, we were working hard to get the Klan out there. And you couldn't do anything to get those sons of guns out there. We got them to write some nasty letters. They said they were going to take Wes out to the tall trees in Hog Valley and show him the tall trees. I remember telling Snipes that, and Snipes was laughing. He's like, "That's great. We got to get that guy down to the courthouse." So he had a whole different mindset. No fear at all. No worries. But there just aren't enough of them, unfortunately. They're just writing letters from their basements and getting, grifts and hustles. There's just, people who want these secret racist organizations with all this power. If they existed, by golly, I would have been able to drag them out in the Snipes case. Wasn't able to. And just because they don't exist anymore in any meaningful manner. So they're just marginal players, marginal participants. What I'm talking about is when the Klan has been powerful, it's sociopaths who've been given a permission slip to act out on their sociopathology. There are large periods of times where the Klan has had very little influence. But in fact, that's the important part. You realize that it's, however, the white citizens councils and all of those groups that really and the sheriffs who determined whether the Klan mattered at all. Klan mostly didn't matter in the 1970s. Imagine 1965, peak of power, 1975 don't exist. That tells you a lot about this was not a mindset. This was not an idea. This was sociopaths who were given a permission slip and then had the permission slip taken away. And they rediverted their activities towards other things. If you study the Aryan Brotherhood, same dynamics. They're almost all criminals. They don't have any really hardcore racist belief structure. They may espouse it, but that's not what motivates them. What motivates them is they want to be criminals. They want to act out their sociopathology. Same is true with a lot of radical Islamic terrorism that gets called that. There's a reason why they all meet in jail when they're 14.
Actually, Al-Qaeda, they did some studies, and I got to get Allison in on this because I know she's deep in all this. But
Al-Qaeda?
Well, not Al-Qaeda, but
Antifa,
there was a raft when McKinley was murdered, and around that time we had a huge anarchist problem here in the United States, and after that, and we had major bombers, and the mentality of the bombers here in the United States is very similar to the mentality of Al-Qaeda. People think that there are a bunch of refugees who are in camps and stuff like that, but they're not. They're middle-aged, middle income to upper income bored kids, very educated for the most part. And I'm serious. Go look them up. Go look up Bin Laden. He's one of the richest families in Saudi Arabia. All these others, they match the anarchist profile that we had in the United States.
In terms of age, background, profile,
mentality, and it's a very strong similarity.
You find very few people willing to do politicized violence. Well, Allison can talk about the people she witnessed in the Black Bloc. My guess is they fit a pattern of 15 to 25, maybe up to 30, who probably have a criminal history, who probably show up disproportionately in domestic violence arrests, things like that. What was your experience to the degree you had knowledge about that?
honestly, I didn't. It was something I got pulled into a couple times a year, so it wasn't something that I covered extensively. Like I wasn't the person that was following up the next day because I was the environmental reporter, so I would get to go back to the mountains and not have to deal with the insanity that was downtown Seattle. But I do know that recently one of our investigative reporters at my old station did look into that. You know, who are these people that are getting arrested at these protests and riots? And the groups got so angry that they actually stormed into our newsroom building and like took over the lobby, and I think a couple people got arrested. And so it's interesting because if you're a journalist, like you guys were talking about earlier about journalists not asking the tough questions and not going after certain topics because either they're just trying to gain an audience on Twitter or say whatever's popular. But I really think a lot of them are scared. And when you're in a newsroom, and honestly, where this mob came in and started, screaming and demanding justice in the newsroom, and that the news director come down and apologize and everything, where they were standing, that used to be a set. I mean, for like 2 years, we had a live show that was aired in the lobby with no security, no locked doors. And I would fill in every once in a while. And I'd say, I don't think we're safe down here. But my husband, who's a security expert, would say, I don't want my wife, just sitting in the lobby with glass window. Actually, the whole walls, they were all glass. Like anyone could just shoot you right from the street. And so, fast forward a couple of years and they have an investigative reporter that decides to take on exactly this topic. Who are these people? And you see this backlash. It's not just something that people come after you anymore on the internet. They actually physically come to the newsroom and they're sort of like demanding that this reporter be fired and that he come down and face them. And, now he has to have security. And it's just a mess. It's not saying like you can debate whether their argument was, hey, by putting their photos on the news and their mugshots on the news and saying what they did, you're putting them in danger. And so you shouldn't have done that. And hey, debate it if you want. But if you're a journalist who is going to deal with that, like, are you going to sign up for that in today's world? I'm not sure every journalist is going to be the person nowadays that wants to deal with the breadth of the mob and the heat and just the extensiveness of what people who are so angry at journalists for doing that kind of stuff are able to do now with the mobilizing that you can do on social media. It's just it's a totally new world for even, I think, the journalists who have the best intentions. 15 years ago, this was not necessarily something that you were worrying about because there wasn't a Twitter where people could mobilize to say, hey, today at 2:00, we're all going to go to King 5. We're going to storm the lobby and we're going to refuse to leave until this guy comes down and faces us. Like that just wasn't something that people were dealing with. So it's just a whole nother world. Anyway, back to your original question. I can say they were regulars. For the most part, it was, you would see people that, granted, a lot of them were wearing masks and whatnot, but it wasn't uncommon for us, whatever the protests were, actually. It wasn't even just the Antifa or the Black Bloc. There were other protests that I covered where just, this is what, people would say, oh yeah, I saw that guy at this other thing, And so it was sort of in the Pacific Northwest anyway. It's a kind of a different environment, but it's something that people did. I don't want to call it a profession, but it was a regular activity. It was something that people, you're actually in a weird way, you would see bulletins on telephone poles saying, hey, we'll hire you, $15 an hour to go out and do some of this stuff. So it's something that I think the rest of the country may not deal with in the same way that we did in the Pacific Northwest. But to your point, it's not like it's not like a Clark Kent Superman change. I don't think you're not just like this person during the day that is somebody you wouldn't necessarily say, okay, I can see how you weren't like surprised, in other words, necessarily all the time when you would see the folks that were out there doing that.
And by the way, according to the GQ story, a good number of the people in Kenosha, or at least some of them, came from Portland and Seattle. We're part of the professional circuit. And what happened is we got Portland and Seattle exported across the country last summer.
Mm-hmm. No, and what is amazing is that the idea, everyone's on Twitter, social media saying worth my paycheck, as if to mock the idea that there are centralized forces who are subsidizing the activism. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's just the modus operandi. And conspiracy theory and modus operandi is just a question of perspective. It doesn't have to be as nefarious as sinister. It's just a question of practicality. You know that they bust in people. You know that they bring in people from elsewhere. The only question is who's doing it, why are they doing it, what's the motivation, and does it actually happen? And if anybody says it doesn't, it's only because they're watching CNN and Brian Stelter.
It's like LA gangs. Remember, I mean, they were going to get rid of the gang problem by as soon as they got out of prison, they shipped them all around the country. And instead of getting rid of them, they started up new franchises all over the place. Well, this is not that, dissimilar. They go somewhere, they protest, it gets a little hot. They go somewhere else and they cause trouble and they build it up there.
Well, the CIA did need a drug distribution ring. You need somebody in every town.
There we go.
There's an old school journalist, Gary Webb, managed to shoot himself twice in the head.
Yep,
Still
two to the head.
And Robert, I've looked into it. Apparently, it occurs every now and again where the first shot,
especially when the CIA is involved. I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
It's possible. It's just not necessarily probable.
It is amazing, and people will throw the label of conspiracy theory around, and the people who do that are largely unaware of actual reality, which would put conspiracy theory to shame in terms of its lack of audaciousness. That the actual reality of things that happen, whether it's Operation Northwoods, which never materialized, but was an actual operation geared at fomenting and creating and facilitating domestic bombings of institutions to justify a war with a foreign nation. It never made it to signature because JFK, from what I understand, didn't sign off. Department of Defense was the one who proposed it. Yeah, so it never got there.
6 months later, JFK was kind of gone.
Robert, that sounds an awful lot like a conspiracy theory.
I believe in coincidences myself. I'm sure it's completely coincidental.
When people complain about conspiracy theory, it's because they don't understand reality. That's the bottom line.
Allison shared that this is the article that she was talking about with the dealing with that many of the protesters are white from other cities, etc. And yeah.
This was the story that got King stormed, and there's a video all over the internet if you guys look it up, or you can see the live streams of people that are chanting in the lobby. But
is that going in here? Well, you can keep talking about it. Hopefully,
well, essentially what Chris said. Chris Ingalls, who is my former coworker, that
is he still sane? Please,
is he still sane?
Yeah, like you have so many in your industry who have just gone off.
Yeah, as far as I know, I haven't been in touch with a lot of them in a while. But so basically, like their records show that they weren't necessarily from the Seattle area, all of them, but surrounding the greater Seattle area. I guess nobody can afford to live in Seattle anymore, anyway. But that they were like this first guy they're talking about, that he had been laid off. Some other guy here, another young white suburbanite who has been charged by federal prosecutors with tossing Molotov cocktails into Seattle police vehicles. He was fired from his job as a plumber's assistant after his arrest. It seems like Seattle is kind of a weird place anyway. It's not where you find your typical what you would see as sort of your activists in other areas. And I think the behavior that flies in Seattle probably would be socially shamed in other cities. So it's a place where weird stuff happens. I remember when I got the job out there, my coworkers in Tampa were like, that's a very difficult news market because you can't just do press releases from the police department. You can't just do the typical bleeds it leads stuff in other markets is not really a Seattle thing. Seattle, there were like Man and Tree was a thing, for instance, that I was covering ad nauseum for days. I don't know if you guys remember Man and Tree. He was a dude who climbed to the top of a huge tree in downtown Seattle outside the Macy's.
Oh, Man and Tree. Okay,
yeah, he just lived there and was throwing feces at the cops. And
you
guys are indulgent of
it was the lead story for, I think, about 5 days. In no other market would that have been the lead story. It was a nonstop live look. What's Man and Tree doing right now? That was Seattle. Seattle was a place where the normal news did not fly. And I think just the regularity of the absurd, which was constantly captivating people in that area, it just made people, the average behavior that folks would would look at you and say, yeah, you probably should simmer down. Like in Seattle, that was a Monday. So in order to do something to catch people's attention in Seattle, I think people, they act a little bit different.
Fair enough.
Did you ever cover the trials involving any of the environmental extreme organizations in Seattle?
Like
I think that was a big one.
Was that Seattle or Oregon?
I covered a lot, but what do you consider an environmental extremist? Because I don't, I think that in Seattle, that's also like your average Whole Foods shopper is an environmental extremist.
I thought there was a big criminal case of a group of like 6 or 7.
They turned the tar sands valves. Is that what you're talking about?
I think so, because I had a case around the same time and they had all this crazy security and people were telling me this is the kind of security that we're going to have while your trial is going on, because I was concerned that people would get confused. There was also a big Hells Angels trial, I think, around that time too. But I was curious whether you covered any of that, because I just got a little bit of tangential information about it, but never followed up. Yeah,
one of my favorite stories was when they brought the Shell oil drill rig into like dock in Seattle, and this was under Obama, and so everybody, they called them the kayaktivists. They kayaked to protest because this drill rig was coming in, so they were going to try to stop it, which they didn't. Which I'm sure shocks everyone that their kayaks did not stop the drill rig. It's still parked in Seattle. But I'll never forget how we were supposed to cover them. I had to be in the water with these kayakers, but you can't do a live shot in a kayak because everybody watching at home would puke because you would be rocking. So we had to find a boat. And the day before, or even maybe, I can't remember if it was that morning, our boat that we had secured, just like a little fishing boat that would at least be steady enough to keep people from throwing up, broke. So the only boat we could find was a friend of a friend who was an insurance agent who had a 60-foot yacht. So they put me in the front of this huge yacht where I'm just towering over these people in their kayak. And they're just, do you know how much oil that yacht is burning right now? They're so mad at me. I'm like, this is, what, suck it up. If you want news coverage, you're going to have to deal with it. So yeah, but I covered all of that stuff.
Wow. You and John Kerry had some, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, this also just sounds like sort of the moral war on social media as to who's going to be more virtuous than the other when someone is there to report on it, but they're not there in sufficient means to report on it. And so everyone turns on each other. The revolution eats itself.
Oh, please. No kidding.
What are you going to do? And it didn't help too that you're standing in the front of this yacht with people holding reflectors. So, it looked like I was doing some kind of shoot for Cosmopolitan magazine. It wasn't a good look, but what are you going to do? That's what we had. So
what you're going to do is next time you go on a kayak with a GoPro and you shoot it in the way that will make people sick, because at least they'll be sick, but they won't complain about other stuff.
Right. That's true. Yep.
Viva, how do you do those shots in kayaks and they don't go like do?
Well, so on the kayak, I have a GoPro. On the canoe, I go crazy. Where's my camera? My camera's not here. On the canoe, I take a camera.
Horizon lock too, I think, on a GoPro.
No, I don't do that, but you can stabilize it afterwards. But even stabilizing makes you more nauseous than not. But no, you could shoot with a GoPro. It's just you need to know what the context is, and you could shoot off a GoPro or a DSLR. But yeah, you don't want to lose a good camera, but you don't want to lose the shot, and you don't want to denature the shot. So having a big camera denatures the shot sometimes.
Interesting.
Well, fair enough. And while we're denaturing, folks, this has been freaking amazing.
I told Eric, it started off with a glitch, and it ended up with awesome. Well, not to say it's awesome because it turned into a foursome, but it's awesome. It turned into a foursome.
No. So everybody, you got to catch us. Now, if you haven't subscribed to Alison's channel, what's wrong with you? Because we're going to be on Alison's channel next week. Alison Morrow, she's one of those 1L Alisons. We'll talk about it.
How many S's?
I will immediately judge somebody if they write me an email and they use 2 L's. I'm just giving everybody a heads up right now. I will judge you. It will take a long time for you to make it back into some kind of equilibrium with me.
You're like one of those 1L Michelle's.
I'm going to send Alison an email. It's going to have 2 L's, 2 S's, and 2 N's. Just
yeah. Well, if you do that, then I'll just think you're being creative. But if it's just, if it's just one mistake, then I'll know that you weren't paying attention. So, and somebody did actually just recently asking for, like, I think it was an interview request or something, and they didn't spell my name right. And you know what? I don't know. I'm gonna have to rethink this one. I don't even know if you got the right person, because obviously my name has 1 L, and you would know that if you knew anything about me.
And on that note,
and it's on my Emmy. Hang on.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on.
Bring them both out.
Emmys? Is that the same Emmy?
Oh, wait. But just to prove it, I'll get you my other Emmy. Hang on.
2 Emmys, guys. Hey, no. I'm upgraded.
Okay, so let's just make sure. Can you see? Let's see. Can you see my name? Can you see my name? I don't know. Oh no, it's out of focus. But.
This is a serious question, but it's a quasi joke question. You've won an Emmy, you've won 2 Emmys, and you undoubtedly deserved it. How do you feel seeing Governor Cuomo get an Emmy? Like, what does it do for the rest of the people who earned their Emmys?
I actually don't think Emmys are really that big of a deal, so I wasn't that surprised that he got one. I don't remember though if he won a regional Emmy or a national Emmy, which is a little bit of a difference in nuance. Do you guys know if it was a regional?
I didn't know there were regional Emmys.
I'm going to keep quoting Ricada on this, but it needs to be changed to editing.
That is brutal. I think I'll give Nick Ricada credit. He comes up with some Mike Malice level humor. Not all the way up to Mike Malice, but close to it.
Emmys are kind of the slum of the journalism award world. So, I mean, I have 2 of them, and I use them just to prove that I was in the club at one point, but I don't really hang my hat on. Actually, I do literally hang a hat on them.
Well, while we're slumming, where were you when you won your first Emmy?
Seattle. I won it both as an environmental reporter in Seattle, and I wore flip-flops to the Emmys. I literally, you can see, there's a video out there. I wore flip-flops to the Emmys. I don't care. I didn't. In fact, the reason why I stopped submitting for them was because my bosses forced me to go to the dinner, and I hated going to the dinners because most people that know, what I'm into, I'm really into local food, high quality raised animals. I hate paying $150 for a meal that probably should cost $5, wine that gives you a headache the next day. These were really expensive dinners. I don't understand why they cost that much, because I know the food wasn't sourced very well. And I'm like, I don't want to go. And my bosses forced me to go. So by the 3rd year, I was just done. So I said I wouldn't. They were like, well, we'll pay for it. We'll pay for it. Okay, if you want to submit, but I don't want to go. So you have to then send someone. Well, we're going to be so embarrassed if you're not there to accept the award. Okay, well, I'm not going. You can't force me to go. So that was how that all ended. I stopped submitting. I didn't want to. I know somebody who has over 80 Emmys. To me, if you can win 80 of anything, it is useless. Yeah, I was okay. Yeah, did Lynn say that in the chat?
Yeah, well, he's the one who asked the question. I'm letting you just go on and on.
Yeah, the first one I won, I wasn't even. Yeah, I wasn't. What, or was I there? Yeah, I wasn't even there. I didn't go. I went camping. Yeah, I went camping. The coworker I won it with called me and said we had won. I went the second time and accepted my award and wore the flip flops the second time. But yeah, if you're gonna win, like the big awards would be the Morrows. Those are big awards for reporters, but not
or
the
Peabody.
Emmys.
Peabody's pretty
Alison,
Peabodys are big too. Yep.
I don't want to one up your 2 Emmys. I won a Shorty Social Good Award, which if we can see it, there you go. I don't think I will ever get nominated again, because I think that my channel has gone too far center, that I will never get nominated for a Shorty or a Shorty Social Good Award. But I did a good video. I'll share that link. It was a good vlog where I took the 2 kids and the dog down to New York for an overnighter.
I think that's way harder to get. That is way harder to get than an Emmy. So you should be more proud of that. Plus, don't you have the silver YouTube?
Oh, I have the play button as well. Yes, that's
yes. Good. Okay, so you're in the club. You're in and out of the club. You're in.
And yeah. I asked YouTube tonight to look into why my live streams were not appearing on the feed, and I hinted. At what point might I get a channel manager so I can know how to navigate the ever-changing rules of YouTube? So, fingers crossed, I might have news tomorrow.
No, that would be awesome, dude, and well deserved. I mean, Nick's had one since 80,000.
Nick has his talents.
Though he might have got a channel manager for other reasons.
No, Nick has
No, not babysitter.
I have
manager.
never asked. I've never asked. I overtly asked tonight in chat, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, if you think chat rooms were, we're going to get some trolls. I mean, Nick's chat rooms are interesting. Eric stayed up drinking with him all the way through. I was impressed. For like 4.5 hours. That was some serious drinking.
That's because Eric's cat doesn't wake him up at 5:30 in the morning like my daughter.
Well, yep, there is that. However, I didn't make it through without one freaking restroom break. I don't know how he does it. He's got that Joe Rogan bladder.
Maybe he doesn't. Maybe you don't know what he's peeing. He could have
yes,
a bottle or
yes.
My mom bought me this device called the Lady J, and
that's what that is.
For truck
you do.
Yes, I do. It's terrible. Don't ask why.
So one time in Tampa, this guy robbed a bank and then jumped off the bridge, the Howard Franklin Bridge, which connects Tampa to St. Petersburg, in order to try to swim away with the cash. And I was stuck on the highway. They shut the highway. They literally shut the bridge down so that they could get the guy. And I was stuck there doing live shots, and I had my morning coffee, and I had no bathroom, and there was literally nowhere to go. And I wanted to die. So after that, my mom sent me with the Lady J, and I've had it ever since.
And you didn't need it, right?
I didn't need it. What do you mean, that day? Or I haven't needed it since?
Well, I was going to say, that's like insurance. When you actually have it, you don't really need it.
Yeah. Well, I started covering the environment soon after, and the world is your toilet when you cover the environment.
There you go.
Yeah. I've peed on many stories. Just
all right. So, by the way, is this going to be a theme? Last week we were talking about the pup date, and we determined that sometimes too much life can be spent at the piss pole. And so now we're worried about whether the world is your toilet. So
the world is your toilet. That's my fourth book.
And on that happy note, guys, if you haven't subscribed yet, go to Alison's channel, subscribe, because we're going to be there next week. It's going to be awesome. If you haven't subscribed here, please do. And you never know who's going to turn up. That's one thing that's really cool.
Yeah.
We've had Nate the lawyer. We've had these two reprobates. I mean, it is amazing.
Reprobates.
And
good word.
Awesome. And thank you guys so much for showing up. And thank you, Alison.